Attention! Sit down and listen up. Today you're going to learn 23 phrasal verbs that are perfect for beginners. I use these phrasal verbs every day and you can too. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer now. Let's get started. Our first phrasal verb. Hopefully you know this one. Work on. Remember, a phrasal verb is a verb, work, and a preposition, on. But you must remember the specific prepositions because if you change the preposition, you change the meaning. Now, to work on, this means to spend time improving or developing something. So it's very common for a native to ask you, what are you working on? Or you can say, he's been working on fixing the sink. And I use this a lot with my students. I might say she worked on her pronunciation and now it's much better. So I hope you're working on your English with my lessons. If you are, put that's right, put that's right in the comments.
We can work on the banners at lunch tomorrow and figure out refreshments then.
And don't worry about taking notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now, if we change the preposition and we have work out instead of work on, the meaning is completely different. This means to resolve a personal problem, disagreement, or conflict successfully. You might say they finally worked out their differences after a long talk. So you could replace work out with resolve. Or you might say, unfortunately, we just couldn't work things out. This might be why your relationship ended or your partnership ended. We couldn't work things out. We couldn't resolve the conflict or issue.
We work things out.
Now, also remember that phrasal verbs have different meanings depending on context. So the one phrasal verb, work out, can mean different things. So if I say I work out every day at 6 a.m., what does that mean? Of course, in this context, the phrasal verb work out means exercise. One phrasal verb you must know is figure out. This means to understand or solve something by thinking about it. You might say, I can't figure out how to reset this password. And then you think about it or you Google it and later you say, never mind, I figured it out. I figured it out.
I figured it out.
It's very common for natives to combine multiple phrasal verbs in one sentence. So I might say, before we can work it out, resolve our conflict, I need to figure out, understand why she's mad at me. Now let's review find out. This means to discover information. For example, I just found out that the meeting was canceled. So you discovered, learned this information.
I just found out I have to go to Columbia.
Or I might ask you, when did you find out about the promotion? When did you discover this information? So find out, discovering information. Figure out is about understanding information. So again, you can use these together and natives commonly do, and you can say, I can't figure out, understand, how she found out, discovered the information about the surprise party. Another very important phrasal verb I use every single day is end up. This means to finally be in a particular situation, and it's often unexpected rather than planned. So when we use phrasal verbs, they have a very specific meaning. So you really have to understand the context and the meaning of that phrasal verb. If I say we ended up staying home, it means it was unexpected, it wasn't planned. So maybe because it was raining. That's the reason why. That's our final result.
That ended up working.
Or you can say he ended up working late again. So it sounds like it wasn't planned, it just happened, and that's the final result. Now, it's very common to ask someone, what did you end up doing last night? Now, in this case, maybe your friend told you that they were thinking about doing many different things. So for you, it's unexpected what they did. At that point, it wasn't planned. So it's very common to ask, what did you end up doing last night or this weekend? Now let's talk about turnout, because they're similar but again distinct, and that's why it's so important to understand the context. To turn out, this means to result in a particular way. The test turned out to be harder than I expected. You can absolutely say the test was harder than I expected, but adding turned out, it gives more information about your expectation or your thoughts about the exam. Or you can say, it turns out that I don't have to work late. We often use this to talk about the final result of something when it is unexpected.
Well, as it turns out, we're getting ourselves a new partner and they needed a new office.
And this is very commonly used with food, with cooking or baking. So if you like cooking or baking, or your friend does, you might ask them, how did your cookies turn out? What was the final result? Now, this is very similar with end up. Just remember that end up is focused on the final solution, and turn out is focused on the final result. So you can say, I ended up staying home on Saturday, but it turned out to be a productive night. So you're talking about the final result. Now let's move on to our next phrasal verb, which is move on. So to continue to the next thing. You've probably heard this before, but make sure you practice it so you feel comfortable using it. You might say, let's move on to the next topic if you're with your coworkers in a meeting, and you can even use this with your friends or family. This can also mean to leave the past behind and continue with your life. So it still has the sense of continue, but you have to forget the past and continue. So for example, she's trying to move on after her divorce. She's trying to continue with her life. Or you might use this as advice to someone, harsh advice, blunt advice. You were fired 6 months ago. You need to move on. If that friend is still upset about the situation, move on.
So you need to move on, find something else.
And if you don't move on, you might fall behind, and that's our next phrasal verb, to fall behind. This means to stay at a lower level than others. So you might say, my vacation was great, but I fell behind in class. While you were out sightseeing and drinking lattes, your class was learning, but you were not. So you stayed here and then your class progressed. Or you might say, I feel like I'm falling behind. Now you can use this in a general sense, or you can be specific. I feel like I'm falling behind in life, which is quite general, at work, more specific, at school, more specific as well. So people are progressing and you are staying here.
I feel like I'm falling behind.
Or you might say to your family, if I don't work this weekend, I'll fall behind. And if you are falling behind, you may want to speed up, which means to go faster. So you might say, we need to speed things up if we want to meet the deadline. And here things represents whatever you're working on. Or you can ask someone, can you speed up? We're late. Can you speed up? So you can use that if your colleagues are working on a specific task, if your husband is washing the dishes, or if you're driving, because you can drive faster. Can you speed up?
Can you speed up the process of its removal?
And if the driver is going too fast, what would you say? Slow down. Of course, this means to reduce your speed. So you could advise a new driver, you need to slow down when you drive in the snow or in the rain. And outside of driving, you can say sales have slowed down this month. Or if someone is talking, you can say slow down, you're talking too fast.
Will you slow down, please?
Let's review get by. This means to manage or survive with what you have. So you might say, we can get by with one car for now. We can survive, we can get by.
I don't think I can get by on the benefits.
Or you might say, she doesn't earn much, but she gets by. She survives, she's able to pay for everything she needs to. Or you might ask someone, maybe they were going camping or they were going into a rural area, and you ask them, how did you get by without Wi-Fi? Let's review step down. This is an important business phrasal verb. You hear it in the media a lot. This means to resign, but only from a high-level position. So a high-level position like a CEO, executive manager, leader. You can say the CEO stepped down last year. The CEO resigned. The CEO quit. Or you can say she's stepping down as senior manager. So in the present continuous, it means she is doing this now. So she is still the senior manager, but she has already announced that she's leaving the position.
Some say I stepped down, but I did it because of you.
Or you might ask, when do you think the president will finally step down? This could be the president of a company or an organization. Just remember though, that's for senior positions. For regular positions, you use resign or quit. You don't use step down. Another very common business phrasal verb is take over. This means to gain control of something. So you could say, now that the CEO stepped down, quit, resigned, who's taking over? Who's gaining control? Or you might say she had to take over, she had to take control, gain control, when her manager stepped down. Maybe it was unexpected. You can also use this in a general sense. The company was taken over by a larger corporation. So the larger corporation took control of the entire company.
Yes, but it was taken over last year by the Midway chain.
Oh.
You will also hear in the news, business news, the phrasal verb close down. Now this means to stop operating. It can be permanently or temporarily. It's generally the context that makes it obvious. For example, the restaurant closed down during the pandemic. So in this case, it's not clear if it's temporary or permanent. You would need more information. Or they're closing the store down next month. If I don't receive more information, I would assume it's permanent. And if you ask someone, why did the cafe close down? It sounds like it's permanent because there's nothing to suggest it's only temporary. So here's something where you would add context to make it obvious if it were temporary. We're closing down for the holidays. So usually you have some sort of time reference or the reason. We're closing down during renovations, for example.
We closed down the school and set up a curfew for anyone under 18.
Good.
One I use multiple times a day is follow through. This is to complete something you started or committed to. But we often use this to complain about people. My son never follows through. So your son says he's going to clean his room or visit you on the weekends, and he doesn't. He never follows through. Or you might give someone advice. You need to follow through if you promise something. If you say you're going to drive me to the airport, well then you need to do that because I'm relying on you. You need to follow through. Now just notice the sentence structure. You need to add the additional preposition on, so it's follow through plus on when you specify the object, the something. So if you say he never follows through on his plans. His plans is the something, it's the object. So in this case, you must add the additional preposition on.
You never follow through.
Now maybe he doesn't follow through because he's not looking forward to it. Do you know this phrasal verb? To look forward to. You probably know it, but make sure you're using the structure correctly because I see a lot of mistakes with this one. So to look forward to, of course, is to feel excited about something in the future. It could be 5 minutes from now or 5 years from now, but it's in the future. So you might say, I'm really looking forward to the weekend.
And even though I'm so looking forward to the next part.
Or ask someone, are you looking forward to your trip? Now here's where I see mistakes because you have look forward, that's your phrasal verb, and then you have the additional preposition to, and then you have a noun, the weekend, your trip. But if you use a verb, it must be the gerund verb because to is a preposition, is not part of the infinitive. So you would say, I'm not looking forward to meeting with the ing form, the gerund. I'm not looking forward to meeting the new CEO. So you can absolutely use this in the negative, and many natives do. Let's review put up. This means to hang, attach, or display something. Yesterday, I put up the new posters in my room. Now here, notice yesterday, but put is irregular. All three forms are put.
And put up posters in the area where you hit him.
I could ask you, can you help us put up these decorations? Or they put up no smoking signs all over the office. Let's review set up. This means to schedule, organize, or establish something. You might say, I'll set up the meeting. This means schedule. Or can you help me set up my new email account? Can you help me organize it or even establish it?
I'll set up my email so it sends out a vacation email.
Or they set up a new business last year. They established it, they're organizing it. Let's review to set aside. This means to save something and is generally used with time and money, and you save it for later. So you can think of it as to reserve. You might say, I'm busy now, but I'll set aside some time this afternoon to help you set it up. Set your email account up, for example. Or you might say, Jennifer, I set aside time every day to watch your lessons. You reserve that time, and I certainly hope you do. Or you could say, we set aside $500 every month for emergencies. Now, did you notice this is also an irregular verb? All three conjugations are set, set, set.
And we set aside a tidy sum.
And if you can't set aside the time, you may need to put it off. So to put off, this means to delay something. As advice, I would probably say don't put off your homework. Don't delay your homework. Set aside the time. Or you might just say, we put off the meeting until Friday. Maybe something more important happened, or one of the executives was sick or on vacation. We put off the meeting until Friday.
You put off the really important stuff till later.
Or you might ask in frustration, why do you always put things off? Why do you always delay things? We need to speed up. Now let's review bring up. This means to mention a topic. She brought up an interesting point at the meeting. Or you can ask, if you weren't at the meeting, perhaps, did anyone bring up the new marketing plan? Did anyone talk about it, discuss it, raise it? Or you might ask, why did you bring that up? Why did you bring up the fact that our sales have slowed down?
Bring up the video?
And maybe you brought it up because you just couldn't hold back, which is our next phrasal verb, to hold back. This means to stop yourself from expressing something. But this is often used in the negative. So in the negative, it means that you're unable to stop yourself from expressing something. So you must express something. You might say, I just couldn't hold back my anger when I saw my ex-husband. So I had to express my anger. Or she couldn't hold back her tears. She couldn't prevent them. They just came down when she watched that really sad movie, which happens to me all the time. Or you might say to someone, don't hold back your opinion. Share it. Share it honestly. So don't hold back your opinion.
I have tried to hold back my feelings, but I can't go on like this.
Let's review look after. This means to take care of someone or something like a pet or a plant. Can you look after my dog this weekend? Or you might say she looks after her younger brother after school. So in the present simple, it's a routine. Or you might ask, who's looking after the kids? You should definitely know the answer to that.
Who's looking after the kids?
Now you have 23 phrasal verbs that you can use every day. Do you want me to keep helping you learn more phrasal verbs? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.